Okay, then let me go on Instagram and see if I can get this finally. It's
Sure.
up. Yes, I have gone live on IG. I've gone live. Yes. Okay. So I'll focus on hello everybody. Welcome to our virtual book club, our global virtual book club. I am really excited, really, really excited. This book has been, it was how, maybe because I'm a doctor, that's why I'm going to say this. You know how maybe you have pain and then you just take the right medicine and then you're like, oh, this feels good. That's what it feels like. It's been so wonderful. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Esoimeme, and I have my amazing co-host Pratibha Leo. Pratibha, you're just amazing. Everything I've done with you, I have enjoyed it. From our first meet where we met at a networking event, it was
Yeah.
just magic, till our first podcast together when I just moved to Dubai, and now on all the other things we've done in between. And then now we're doing this. This is week 3. Can you believe it? It's week 3.
I I really can't because the first thing that I'm thinking is where did the time go?
Where did
It was
it
just like
go?
yesterday that I met you, and it's been, I don't know what, 6 months, 7 months, or probably even a year. I don't know. I've lost count.
Yeah, yeah. No, it wasn't that. It was in the summer. It was in the summer. We met this
Summer?
summer. Yes, at Tech Tuesdays. For
Wow.
those people who are not in Dubai, so there's a networking. Dubai is like there's so many networking events.
Hub
So
of
there's this,
network.
yes, but there's this one that's really big. It's called Tech Tuesdays. You go there and you find what, if some people go there, they find friends. Some will go, they find co-hosts. Some will go, they find boyfriends and girlfriends. Some will go find business partners. So it's a place where you go find whatever you're looking for. There's a high chance you will find it in Tech Tuesdays. So I'm just doing like free shout outs for Tech Tuesdays. Um,
Yeah.
do you guys mind putting in the chart where you are joining from, just so I have an idea? I know it's global. I know I can see some of my people from Montgomery, from Alabama in the US. I can see some people from Jersey. I can see some people from Pennsylvania, I think. And then we have our home people who are from Dubai. My friend Roy, shout out to Roy. He's here today. Yes, from New Jersey, Philly. I am so excited. And how are you guys feeling today? Just put it in the chat so I have an idea of if this book is having the same effect on you as it's having on me. See, I have all my. It's rewiring my brain.
Oh, I love that ASMR. I just did that one right now, and I love it.
Yeah. So how we're gonna go over it is that Pratibha will go over, for those of us who were not here last time, just to give you a general idea of the book. She would go over briefly what we talked about last week, just to bring you up to speed, and then I will do like a very brief review, for because I understand that people are busy, so you may not have time to read the book. Because my goal in bringing this book club together, I'm not looking for perfection, I'm looking for growth. So even if you don't read the book, the goal is not just to read. It's good to read because then it becomes your own information, but it's not to read, but it's to grow. So even if you don't read, you can join us and then learn and then grow. As long as you're growing, that's the most important. If you've ever been part of a book club before and you were able to read the book the whole time, this book club is for you. If you've ever been in a book club before and you were not able to read the books, this book club is for you. If you've bought books that you haven't read and it's there and you wish you had time to read the book, this book club is for you. So this book club is for anyone who's interested in growth. As long as you can commit it's 30 minutes to 45 minutes a week. And if you skip one, it's still okay. We'll bring you up to speed. Even if some people can run, some people can crawl. If you can just roll, I'm still fine with that. Let's just have some degree of movement towards the right direction. I'm all up for growth. I'm here to support you just the way I'm supporting myself. And I'm doing this not because I have attained. I think I said that the first time and last week is I have struggled to read all the books I really wanted to read. I would see books, I love them, I buy them, and then I don't read them. So I decided to host this so it keeps me accountable. And then as I move along, I want to carry people along with me as much as I can. So Pratibha, do you mind going over the what we did last week, and then briefly go over the next
Sure.
chapter.
Absolutely. So, hi everyone. Hi once again. So, I don't want to like go page by page as in what we did last week because we did like an intensive session last week and it was just one word, it was just eye opening. I'm still gasping for breath, whenever I think about it because it was Gloria, when I say this with all honesty, it was absolutely nerve wracking, to read this and to even experience all of that. I'm trying to experience all these emotions, and it's like through the roof. And I started journaling, thanks to this book, I restarted journaling. And this is
Wow.
I think, it's my 15th or 16th day of consistent journaling. I've never journaled at one stretch. And
I haven't gotten there yet. It's something I desire. Maybe.
oh, it's because you know what? I'll tell you something. This is a tip that I want to tell everyone before I start summarizing. Whenever you feel like you remember I spoke about the book chooses you more than you choose the book, right? And there were
Right.
some pages here that really, really spoke to me, and I felt like I had to reread it. And when I
That's
was rereading it, like especially, there's something about self trauma. If I am not wrong. I've even marked it. I don't have these fancy stuff that Gloria has done. I'm just folding everything like I'm pretty old school. And there's a chapter here which is known How to Live Without Being Controlled by the Past. And this gave me so many triggers, so many. It awakened a lot of trauma which was inbuilt. And I had actually, gone to therapy and I had solved it, but still it was just coming on and off, and I had to journal it. So, long story short, and I think all of you guys, even if you haven't read the book, just read it as a story. Okay, let me say a gist of this. So, it's written as a dialogue between a philosopher and a young man who sort of believes that he is unhappy because of his past, his personality, and his circumstances. And all in a mix of this, he introduces a concept known as the Adlerian psychology. Sorry, yeah, the Adlerian psychology.
it.
And this was something which quite, sort of intrigued me because it challenges the idea of trauma, of the past, and so to speak, even our basic emotions. Like it sort of starts off as a smooth ride and suddenly just goes on like a freaking roller coaster. The big shift which actually happens is it happened during the first couple of pages, and where the author is saying something about cause, and Adler replaces that with purpose. Instead of saying I am in this situation because of so and so, he just replaces that with purpose, like okay, I'm in this situation, now what can I do to come out of it? And that, you guys, that was quite reassuring. You won't believe it, now whatever I'm reading here, I'm actually implementing it in my life a lot, especially when I'm going for work and where there are a lot of difficult people to deal with, and you're not selling ice cream for everyone to like you, right? You will be pushed to a corner, and there will be a tagline of, oh, it's nothing personal, it's office. But there is a lot of personal stuff which happens behind that. And I think the way this book has taught me is it has taught me to project the emotions rightly in a way so that you can practice it. And when I say practice it, I've been through turmoil and I've been to tumultuous situations in the past 1 month, especially at work, where it's just changing because it's year end, it's pressure, the pressure is coming from somebody else. And it's like a downward spiral and it's like a funnel because it moves through all the level of employees. And whatever I'm reading here, I'm just affirming it. I affirm that painful things doesn't happen to me. It means those things are just passing clouds and they don't decide our future. I found this line and I've kept it as my laptop screensaver, and I
Wow.
keep looking at this every single morning. So the impact that the first chapter has had is so big that I literally had to, remind myself and change my screensaver, because then there's no other way we are moving forward. So, coming back to the book, the main symbolization of the first chapter is we're not driven by the past, but we're moving towards our goals, often unconsciously. And this is where the author introduced the subject of trauma. Trauma doesn't exist, and he says it doesn't deny suffering, but it often denies determinism, if you ask me. Because in the first few pages, Adler says we're not determined by our experiences, but more so by the meaning that we give them. It's just one experience, but how are you reacting to that? You've had a bad experience in your life. That bad experience is not going to define your life unless and until you allow it to consume you. Because when you allow it to consume you, that's when trauma happens, that's when depression happens, that's when you go on to a complete spiral where you don't know how to process it. And by this chapter of how to live without being controlled by the past, I came to understand that, at the end of the day, we're all human. The author, yes, he is being a philosopher, and there is a youth which is also involved. I was in the middle ground between the philosopher and the youth, and by the end of the first chapter, I was able to summarize that I'm in between the philosopher and the youth. I'm not a philosopher, I'm neither a youth. So I'm in the middle ground. I cannot say I'm completely old school because I don't fit now. I'm like, I think this is a problem of millennials. We're no longer in Gen Z. We're not alpha, but we're not old school. But still, we are trying to find a middle ground. So that's something which this book had, kind of put a ray of light. And towards the last chapter, the author, he stresses why we don't change. The book says we don't change because staying the same feels easier. Even if we are unhappy, familiarity feels more secure than the unknown. Now, this is where, before we, moved on to the second chapter, this is where the author, the philosopher, tries to introduce the word courage. It's not about being disliked, it's not about being sidelined, it's not about being the odd one out, but more so, life encompasses the meaning of the courage to being disliked. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a summary that I can provide of chapter one, which had a lot of subtexts and a lot of sub chapters, if I can summarize it in that way. And
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's completely eye opening. So I'm excited to see what Gloria is going to give for the next phase of this chapter. So, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So this, thank you so much. That's a good summary. And I think the most important thing about reading books is not just to read the book and say and have that knowledge, but I think what's most powerful is taking the knowledge you're gaining and then practicing it, which you're
Yeah.
doing. Pratibha, and I hope every other person in the group is doing it. And just looking at the comments, Grace said that the book is brainwashing, or I don't know whether she was teasing something, but I see she said it's brainwashing. And it is brainwashing for real. And I've like I'm very transparent about my feelings. In the past 2 years, I've been working on being more temperate. Um, and it's something that it's been like I've had like these experiences over time. There are times that I'm like it's very zen, and then there are times that I'm a little bit more easily triggered. But in the last 2 years, I've grown a lot. I'm not where I used to be. I've experienced a lot of growth, and I think just reading this book at this point in my life, just about moving on to the new year, putting so many things behind me, marking anniversaries of changes that happen in my life, and it's just phenomenal, and it's pushing me towards the growth that that I really really desire. And just like Pratibha talked about, there is a philosopher and there is a youth, and you can feel the energy of the youth. And some people we're at different phase, so it's like a spectrum of you have the youth and you have the philosopher. Sometimes the youth is at the most rudimentary phase, and then the philosopher, he's always constant, but some of the things he says I would agree, And then some of the things the youth would say, I would disagree. But there's still that middle point where I agree with both of them. But then when I push myself a little bit, then I can say, all right, I see what this philosopher, I always see what the youth is saying for the most part, but some then I see what the philosopher is saying, then sometimes I have to push myself to agree with what he's saying. But at the same time, it's a book. It's not the gospel. It's not the holy grail. So it's okay to disagree. You don't have to agree. We're not here to all have herd mentality that one person says one thing, everybody agrees. It's okay to disagree and say, you know what, I disagree with this, and that's very okay. So what I'll do is I'll go over um, some of the parts that I found really interesting. And this book is divided into different nights, and we are starting from night. I think we're starting from the second night.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the youth spending time with the philosopher, and they're having this intense conversation every night. So this is the second night, and it started with, why do you dislike yourself? That's kind of like a strong question he asked the youth. Why do you dislike yourself? And then they talked a little bit, and then they went on to say all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. So I'll just read some excerpts. So in case for some of us who didn't read it, and even for those of us who read it, just so we can all move together. So the youth said, this was just following up conversation that was said before. He said, wait a minute, am I supposed to just let that one slip by? That's talking about how he hated himself and all of that. He said, to get rid of one's problems, all one can do is live in the universe all alone. What do you mean by that? If you lived all alone, wouldn't you be horribly lonely? And then the philosopher said, loneliness is having other people and society and community around you and having a deep sense of being excluded from them. So he went on to talk about that if you lived alone, you were the only person on earth, you would never experience loneliness, that you're only lonely because oh, there's someone out there, there are things happening, and I do not feel connected. So it's kind of more like a lack of connection. And he went on to say, you wouldn't need language. There will be no use. There will be no use for logic or common sense either if you lived alone and on earth. And I kind of agreed with that because you will need words because you really do not have to communicate with anybody. And the youth went on to say, if one could live in the universe all alone, one's problems would go away. And the philosopher said, in theory, yes, all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. And they went on and explored this idea that whatever problems you have, it's all coming from your relationship with another person. And they went, let me go back and see if there was something. Yeah, there's another line that was interesting here. He said, the philosopher said, there's no such thing as worry that is completely defined by the individual. So-called internal worry does not exist. Whatever the worry that may arise, the shadows of other people are always present. So if you're worried, it's because when I read this, I wasn't completely sure I agreed. So I'm thinking maybe I was thinking about it in a very rudimentary way. So if I'm concerned that I don't have food to eat tomorrow, is that interpersonal? I don't know. I think that's internal. However, maybe if I was the only one on earth, I wouldn't mind just dying. Maybe that's what that would, I don't know. But that part, I didn't get that part. Okay. And then they went deeper. So the philosopher, what he does is that he would just kind of like scratch, he would trigger me. I don't know if every other person got triggered, because telling me that all problems are interpersonal, that's kind of like a little trigger. It's not like a full blown trigger, it's just a little bit. And then he goes deeper. And he said the next topic, the next thing they talked about was feelings of inferiority as subjective assumptions. And then the philosopher asked the youth, are you familiar with the term feelings of inferiority? And the youth said yes. And they went on and talked about the feelings of inferiority. And he said it's feeling inferior. He kind of described it as a good thing. That as kids, we feel the way he described it and how I can paraphrase it. As kids, you feel inferior and then you're struggling for independence. So you begin to push for things that you haven't attained. And then he went on to differentiate the feeling of inferiority and inferiority complex. So he described inferiority complex as a much more complex situation. He gave an example. He used education as an example. So if you do not have a certain education, you can say, oh, I don't have this education, so I'm going to work harder so I can attain what needs to be attained. Or I don't have this skill set, I'm going to get that skill set, or I'm going to find a way to make it, because you feel inferior at that phase. But he said inferiority complex now gets to the stage where you feel, I do not have an education. If I had an education, I would have been able to do that. But because of that, I'm not going to attain to anything in life. So that's when it becomes complex, when it holds you back. And I thought that was very interesting. And they went on and they went on and then they talked about, he said inferiority complex is an excuse. That's what I just talked about a few seconds ago. And they went on and talked about superiority complex. And he said it's just the other side of the spectrum. And they described how the philosopher described how somebody may feel like, this part kind of got to me because I like designer bags, but he made me feel, I was like, okay, am I suffering from inferiority complex? But maybe I am, I don't know. So he said, some people would want to buy expensive things or associate with people of power because they feel like that would make them that association would take away that inferiority complex, that feeling of inferiority that they have. But initially, that's what I thought. What I said, I was like, oh, but I like nice things. So does that mean I have inferiority complex? But the difference there is that you can like nice things and then get the good things in life, but you do not feel like those things have to make you, it's not feeling a defect that you have inside. There's no gap you're trying to fill. There's no sense of loss or that you're trying to feel by saying, okay, now if I get this stuff or if I associate with Pratibha, then I am a better person. You do not get better. You do not, whatever, if I hold this cup, I'm Gloria. If I put this cup down, I am still Gloria. There's no value there's no inherent value that anything external or anybody external could do to me. The only thing an external person could do is maybe I could learn from them and then change my internal view. What do you think about that, Pratibha?
Yeah, when you spoke about this, I was just thinking about a YouTube video.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know there is a channel known as Pickup Lines, and it's one of my favorite channels.
Oh,
It's known as Pickup Lines, not Lines. It's Pickup Lines. So it's by a dietitian, Dr. Sadia Badai or something. I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's Lebanese actually, and she's
yeah.
Canadian. So there is an episode on her channel which says, if I get this, I will dash 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 dash. And it reminded me like how much we search for associations. It's like, if I go out with this person, I'm a intelligent person. If I get this, I will start doing this. Or if I have a better laptop, I can get a freelance career. It's like that.
Yeah.
I think it starts even from the basic level. It's not about even a laptop. It's about like, if I look good, people will respect me. So it's more about internal. It's not even about the materialistic stuff. And in many cases, I've seen that none of these situations change as long as you tie your worth, or you tie your purpose onto any object. It can be a material object, or it can even a friendship or a relationship. Just like you said, if I hang out with you, that doesn't make me, like more intelligent or less intelligent. I'm still me. I'm still Pratibha when I hang out with Gloria. And that's the same thing for Gloria as well. So
Right.
yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you. I knew you would have something to chip in there. And then there's a chapter where the chapter on braggarts have feelings of inferiority, because there I put a
Yeah.
note that talked about association, past achievements. They talked about people who keep holding on to their past achievements and say, oh, if only you knew me when I was, that it's still the same problem where it's no longer you have feeling inferior, and then that feeling of inferiority pushes you to become. Rather, that feeling of inferiority kind of holds you back. You hold it as an excuse why you haven't moved forward. And let me see. And guys, if you have any ideas, please put it in the comments. And if you want to join the conversation, you have something really pressing, I would let you in, and then you can give a comment. But I would really want you to put your thoughts there while we're going, so we'll have a very robust conversation. Then let
Yeah,
me
it
move.
wouldn't just be about just the two of us talking. So we would love to hear
I would
you
love
guys
that.
speak as well.
There was, yeah, talking about the boasting, there's a kind of person who likes to boast about his achievements, someone who clings to his past glory and is always recounting memories of the time when his light shone brighter. And he said, maybe some people like this. And I laughed. I was like, yeah, I know people like that. And I'm like, I hope I'm not like that. And I don't want to be like that. And if I have traits of that, I'm going to start being more reflective to say, why am I holding on to my past glory when I know that the goal is for me to be a better version of me every day? Holding on to my past glory doesn't really serve me. And then we moved on to this part that I love. And anyone who knows me just a tiny little bit, I say it a lot. I am not competitive at all. Like, I'm not competitive at all. The only time I am competitive or jealous that I would want is, I love to run, but I don't run as much as I would love to run. So if I see, maybe I'm just walking or I'm driving or I'm doing stuff, and I see someone running, I get so jealous, so jealous of, like, I wish that is me. That's when I'm not competitive. I don't want to be better than you, because I think it's just putting yourself under undue pressure where I don't know what your genes are, right? Okay, so let's even use the running as an example. So maybe, and when I'm jealous, it's not that I want to beat that person. I just wish I was moving. So maybe Hussein Bolt is your father, right? And my father is and I'm from my family where we're not like exceptional athletes. And then you're running and I'm competing with you. Am I not torturing my soul and my whole life trying to beat you? I could learn. I could say, oh, how do you position yourself? How do you do this? But my goal is not to beat you. My goal is to be the best version of myself. So that's why I really like this chapter that says life is not a competition. And I'll read excerpts from this chapter. It says, a healthy feeling of inferiority, that's the philosopher. A healthy feeling of inferiority is not something that comes from comparing oneself to others. It comes from one's comparison with one's ideal self. So it's to have an idea of your ideal self and then begin to measure up to that ideal, rather than I'm trying to measure up to another person's ideal. That's not healthy. And they went on and talked a little bit, but I really liked that part. And then it talked about you're the only one worrying about your appearance. I kind of like this because initially when I read that, I was like, but that's not true. People would see you. That's the first thing. And Pratibha, you and I talked about that on our podcast. How,
Yeah,
before you see anything, people would first of all see your appearance. So you have to dress a
yeah.
certain way. You have to present yourself a certain way. So I'm like, this philosopher, he's I don't know what he's doing.
That's what I said. I'm in the middle ground. I have hints of philosophy, but I'm not completely the
Yeah,
philosopher of the youth. And I think
yeah.
that's exactly what they've even put here as well. So,
So I'll read some of the excerpts in case you didn't read it, so you get what we're talking about. So the philosopher said, a young friend of mine, when he was a teenager, used to spend a lot of time in front of the mirror arranging his hair. And once when he was doing that, his grandmother said, "You're the only one who's worried how you look." He says that it got a bit easier for him to deal with life after that. And the youth said, I always think I'm being watched by others, that I'm being subjected to harsh judgment, and I'm going to be attacked. And it's probably true that this is a self conscious reaction, just like the mirror obsessed teenager. The people of the world aren't paying attention to me. Even if I were to go walking on my hands down the street, they will not take notice. I don't think that's entirely true. He went from, saying everyone was harsh, attacking him, to him saying if he walks on his hand on the street, people would
yeah.
notice that. So I think that was just a stretch, but I get the point that they're trying to make. And then the philosopher, he ended the part I loved here was he said, when you're able to truly feel that people are my comrades, your way of looking at the world would change utterly. No longer will you think of the world as a perilous place or be plagued by needless doubts. The world will appear before you as a safe and pleasant place, and your interpersonal relationship problems will decrease dramatically. I like that. So sometimes, you go to some places and you see some people and you just by default say, these people, they don't like me, or this girl has resting bitch face, you're like, oh, these people, but he says, rather than going with that mindset, you're going with that mindset that these people are my comrades.
Hmm.
This was something that I did recently. I went somewhere, I could feel like someone did not like me, but I had to rewire my brain. I'm like, no, this person is my comrade, this person is my friend. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but I just choose to have that mindset, and I think it's just easier for me to have that mindset. But the other struggle is, where do you draw the line between being between seeing everybody as your comrade and knowing that there are really people who want to hurt you? Where do
Yeah.
you draw that line? I don't know where we draw that line, but
I
that's why
think
this.
it's hard to draw that line, because that comes only out of experience. It's one thing to be naive, and it's one thing, and it's another thing to, just be anxious all the time. So I think it
Correct.
comes purely out of experience.
Yes. And then he went further to talk about anger because we talked about that a little bit the last time. So it's still along the same theme. And he said, there's a difference. That's the philosopher. When I say he said, it's mainly the philosopher because he's like he's a guru. There's a difference between personal anger, that's personal grudge, and indignation with regard to society's contradictions and injustice. That's righteous indignation. Personal anger soon cools, while the righteous indignation, on the other hand, lasts for a long time. So anger is an expression of a personal growth. Anger as an expression of a personal grudge is nothing but a tool for making others submit to you. And this I agree with 100%. It's just you trying to be dominant, just trying to get the upper hand. And he went further to say, if someone were to abuse me to my face, I would think about the person's hidden goal. Even if you're not directly abusive, when you feel genuinely angry due to another person's words or behavior, please consider that the person is challenging you to a power struggle. So it's more like, and it is a power struggle. And this happened to me this evening. This evening, and then when I sensed what was happening, I just kept quiet because. So I was in a taxi. I went for an event. I was in a taxi coming home. I was with one of my friends. We were in the car together. It rained. For those who are not here, it doesn't rain in Dubai, and it rains today. And it was pouring. So the streets to where I live was flooded. But when I was going to this event, the flood was there. The taxi that took me there went through that flood. But the one that was bringing me back, the water was less. But he said no, that he didn't even say that to me. I just saw him stop. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he just started yelling. And I'm like, why are you yelling? And then he just kept going, and he needs to turn around, he needs to go take a longer route and all of that. And then I was just no, and he started talking to me rudely. I was like, no, you don't speak to me that way. And then the person who was with me kind of tapped me. Then I remembered this book. I was like, oh, power, I'll let it go.
Wow.
Yes, I'll let it go. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to do the power tussle with a cab driver. It doesn't change anything in the grand scheme of things. That was just my own personal experience today. And then let me move on. And guys, if you have any ideas, if you have any thoughts, put it in the comments so we can have a conversation. And let me see what else the philosopher said. He said, to prevent this from happening, that's the power struggle. When one is challenged to a power struggle, one must never allow oneself to be taken in. And I really like that. And then he talked about admitting fault is not defeat. So there was this master class I listened to. I can't remember this guy's name. If I remember it, maybe I'll send it in the next email. He was talking about leadership and power, and he talked about how you must never admit to failure, you must never admit to being wrong, that people are going to see you as weak. And I struggled. And, just with the way things are in the US, and he used the current president as an example. And I struggled. Fine, I could see what he was talking about, but it just struggled. I struggled because he was against everything I believed in as a person. And then when I saw this, I was like, yes, I agree with the philosopher. There's nothing wrong with, admitting faults. It's not defeat, you know. Then let me see if there's so many excerpts here, but I don't want to spend more time going over all the excerpts. Let me see what else is. Oh, then I like this part. Overcoming the task that face you in life. And he described the task of life, the life task. And he described three. One, he described as the task you have with work. That's the work that you do, the relation, and it's all about relationships. So when you're at work, you have relationships there. Then he described another one that he called the task of friendship. So those are like your friends. And then he described the task of love. Those are people when you are in a romantic relationship, or your family. And he talked about how we operate in those three spheres. And then there was another chapter where he talked about red string and rigid chains. That did not really, I did not do much underlining there. So it means it didn't really hit the mark for me. And then the last chapter of this night, the second night, was Don't Fall for Life Lie. And the summary there was, even if you are avoiding your life task and clinging to your life lies, that's the things you're telling yourself, it isn't because you are steeped in evil. It is not an issue to be condemned from a moralistic standpoint. It's only an issue of courage. And it made me go back to the book. It's the courage to be disliked, where, you whatever you're struggling with, he went, whether it's inferiority, superiority, it takes courage. So Pratibha, what thoughts do you have?
I mean, it's just too much, like as and when the chapter goes, it intensifies, and you're just trying to sink in every line of it. But I think life just throws a curveball, without announcing anything. And I think the second night actually served as a guide to bring in more awareness. The first night brought more about what is fear, what is trauma, what is confrontation. But the second night reinforced that how do you take on life's task? How do you move on from trauma? How do you just continue with your life? And I think this, I'm not speaking from a gospel perspective, I'm not speaking like this is some kind of a Bible, but still, it serves as a guideline. And that's what I was able to take note of, because each chapter in the second night was more of an excerpt in itself rather than the first night. So there were lots of summaries to be covered, and I think within the second night we are able to understand about practice, about possession, about why are you avoiding your life tasks, are you evil, why are you not evil, why do you want to just go on with your life rather than overthinking. I think this is where most of us are stuck. Like, we're still in that phase, we're not able to move behind, we're not able to move forward. That's what I understood from the second night, actually.
Yes, yes, yes. Anybody has any thoughts about the book? Any concerns? Any strong point that you're like, yes, I agree, or if you disagree, just you can put it in the comments. And if there was anything we talked about that needs more clarification, that you disagree with me, I am very open to that. To you not agreeing with me, I'm not. I do not claim to have attained the things in this book. I have not attained. I am not the philosopher at this point, and I don't know if anyone can ever. Maybe some people have attained, but I don't know what it would take to get to that stage where you would be at the level of that philosopher, where you just have this deep wisdom and kindness and compassion that nothing moves you. But please put your thoughts in the comments, so we have an idea. So what we're gonna do next, while we're waiting, I'll just go over our the
Third
next.
night.
Yes, it would be the third and the final night with this book. No, I think it's the third. The read is a little bit bigger. So
Yeah.
if you were doing last minute reading, you won't be able to do like a crash. You can't crash these ones. It's a little bit more. It's kind of like bulk of the reading will be done this week, and I think that's where most of the growth will be. So we'll meet again in a week, and then we'll talk about the other part. And so no thoughts, no ideas. If there's no thought, no ideas, Pratibha, if
Wow.
you have any.
Guys
Okay.
are so clear. I'm so proud of our audience. They are so clear with all the topics.
No, they're not clear. They just don't want to interact with me.
Oh, no. Come on, guys. We're not like gonna judge you. You know.
Well, Crystal said she loved it. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank
um
you.
Yeah, thank you. Because I know she Crystal wasn't here last week. There was a problem with the timing.
Oh, okay, okay.
She's in central time in the US, and she thought
Mm,
it was Eastern, so she couldn't make it last week.
okay.
Um, yes, and shout out to Logesh. Did I pronounce it?
Logesh. Yeah, yeah, Logesh.
So shout out to him. I heard he's not feeling fine. He was here previously, not feeling fine. So I'm giving him a shout out, and I'm looking forward to seeing him next week. And thank you to everybody who joined remotely from different parts of the world. This is just so great to you guys are keeping me. You're helping me live my dream life. You're helping me read my book. Oh, Grace has a comment. You said you stopped. She said she didn't get very far with the reading this time,
Yeah.
and that's fine. You stopped at life is not a competition, but you're hoping to catch up later today. Few takeaways: feeling inferior is healthy. We are not the same, but we are equal.
Wow.
Yes,
Words of
yes,
wisdom.
yes. We are not the same. So that's the thing about competition, because we're not the same. So why it's like me comparing this cup and this book. They're not the same.
Yeah. Two different things.
Yes, yes, two different things. Well, shout out to Roy, shout out to Christelle, shout out to Grace, shout out to Naze, shout out to all the people who joined on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and those who are going to watch later. I'm giving a shout out to you all, and I'm sending. My niece told me, because I would do like this. My niece was like, "That's not how you do it." She said it was like this. I don't know, but you feel me. I'm sending love
Yeah.
your way.
All much love to you guys.
Yeah.
I'm doing
But
it the wrong way, but I'm a millennial.
yes,
I'm not millennial, so I'm fine.
yeah. All righty. I will see you guys. And if you have any questions, reach out to me or Pratibha. If any issues, just let me know. Thank you so much.
We'll be happy to help you out.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.